The Ferris wheel was a skeletal giant against the dying light. Its empty carriages creaked in the wind like a lullaby from hell. Beneath it we stood, 5 fools at the gates of the abandoned park. The air was thick with the smell of popcorn and decay, a ghostly perfume of forgotten laughter. This was our playground for the night. "You sure about this, man?" Mark's voice wavered, his bravado cracking. "Don't be a chicken," Aaron scoffed, pushing past him. "It's just an old amusement park. What's the worst that could happen?" We all knew the stories. Legends whispered in hushed tones about the park. Disappeared visitors, unexplained accidents, but we were young, invincible, and fueled by the arrogance of youth. We scoffed at the stories, dismissing them as folklore. Tonight, the stories would become real. The chain-link fence was no match for our youthful exuberance. We slipped through a tear, our steps echoing in the silence. The park was a graveyard of forgotten fun. The roller coaster loomed over us, a twisted metal serpent frozen mid-roar. The air was heavy with anticipation, and something else, something colder. Hide and seek? Chris grinned, his eyes gleaming in the moonlight. Loser buys breakfast? The dare hung in the air, charged with an energy that had nothing to do with breakfast. We were playing more than just a game. We were challenging the darkness, daring it to swallow us whole. "Midnight by the carousel," I said, my voice a rasp in the stillness. "Don't be late." And with that, we scattered. I found my hiding spot in the Hall of Mirrors. My distorted reflection stared back at me, a grotesque mockery of my fear. The air was thick with the smell of dust and something faintly metallic. Outside, the wind howled, a lonely wolf in the night. Minutes stretched into an eternity. Every creak of the floorboards, every rustle of leaves, sent icy tendrils of fear snaking down my spine. I strained my ears, listening for the telltale sounds of my friends, but the only sound was the pounding of my own heart. Then, I heard it. A soft, almost inaudible whisper. It seemed to slither around the edges of my hearing, a chilling caress that sent goosebumps erupting across my skin. Someone was watching me. I peered through a crack in the mirrored wall, my heart hammering in my chest. The Hall of Mirrors was a dizzying labyrinth, reflecting the moonlight in 1,000 fragmented shards. I thought I saw a flicker of movement in the distance, a fleeting shadow that vanished as quickly as it appeared. Then I heard it again. Laughter, soft and playful, like the tinkling of wind chimes. But there was something off about it, something cold and hollow. It wasn't the sound of human laughter. I pressed myself against the wall, my breath catching in my throat. The laughter seemed to be coming from everywhere and nowhere at once. It echoed through the hall, bouncing off the mirrors, distorting and amplifying until it seemed to fill my entire world. Fear, cold and paralyzing, seized me in its grip. The carousel's painted horses were frozen mid-gallop, their once bright colors now faded and peeling. The air hung heavy with the silence of the grave. Midnight had come and gone. Where were they? My earlier confidence had evaporated, replaced by a knot of dread in the pit of my stomach. I called out for my friends, my voice trembling in the stillness. My words were met with an unnerving silence, the silence of an empty tomb. Panic welled up inside me, choking my throat. I ran through the deserted pathways, my mind conjuring up images of unimaginable horrors. Each shadow seemed to writhe and twist, taking on monstrous forms in my terrified mind. Then, I saw it. A flash of red. Aaron's jacket. It was draped over the railing at the foot of the Ferris wheel, a splash of color in the monochrome world. My blood ran cold. This wasn't like her. She wouldn't leave her jacket. Not unless I didn't want to think it. But the thought wormed its way into my mind, taking root like a poisonous seed. Something was terribly wrong. As I drew closer, I saw something else. Something that made my blood turn to ice. Scrawled across the base of the Ferris wheel in what looked like glowing paint was a single, chilling message. The letters seemed to pulsate in the darkness, mocking me, daring me to continue this game. Terror, raw and primal, flooded through me. The playground was a tableau of forgotten childhoods. The swings hung motionless, their chains creaking softly in the breeze. The slide stood empty, its metal cold and slick beneath my trembling fingers. And there, lying beneath the slide, was Chris. His eyes were wide open, staring vacantly at the starless sky. His face was frozen in a mask of terror, his mouth contorted into a silent scream. He was gone. Nausea surged up my throat and I stumbled back, my foot catching on the edge of the sandbox. I fell, my hand landing on something cold and hard. I looked down. It was Mark's phone. The screen was cracked, but I could still make out the message displayed on it. A single, unfinished word. I didn't need to be told twice. I scrambled to my feet, adrenaline lending wings to my feet. The park spun around me, a dizzying kaleidoscope of shadows and moonlight. The air was thick with the stench of fear and decay. Behind me I heard a sound, a soft, shuffling sound, like something heavy being dragged across the pavement. I didn't dare look back. I knew whatever was behind me, it wasn't human. I could hear it getting closer, the rasp of its breath on my neck, the echo of its laughter in my ears. It was toying with me, herding me towards some unknown destination. My lungs burned, my legs screamed for respite, but I didn't dare slow down. Not for a second. Because I knew if it caught me. I burst through the doors of the funhouse, my chest heaving. The air inside was stale and heavy, thick with the smell of mildew and fear. Distorted mirrors lined the walls, reflecting my terror back at me in 1,000 grotesque variations. I was trapped. The shuffling sounds were right behind me, closer than ever. I could almost feel its icy breath on my skin. I whirled around, my back pressed against the cold glass of a distorting mirror. The funhouse was empty, but I knew it was here. I could feel its presence, cold and malevolent, watching me from the shadows. It was toying with me, savoring my terror. Then, I saw it. A flicker of movement in the reflection of the mirror behind me. Something dark and shapeless. Something hungry. It materialized in the reflection, a grotesque mockery of human form. Its skin was stretched taut over elongated limbs, its fingers tipped with claws that scraped against the glass. Its face was a hollow mask, devoid of features save for 2 glowing red eyes that burned with an unholy light. I watched in horror as it reached out from the mirror, its claws shattering the glass with ease. Shards of glass rained down around me, but I was too paralyzed by fear to move. It slithered out of the mirror, its movements fluid and unnatural. Its eyes, those burning red eyes, locked onto mine, and I felt a wave of pure, primal terror wash over me. This was it. This was how it ended. It opened its mouth and I saw rows upon rows of razor-sharp teeth. A low growl rumbled in its chest, a sound that seemed to vibrate deep within my bones. "You're the last one," it hissed, its voice a raspy whisper that seemed to suck the air from my lungs. I didn't wait to see what it would do next. I didn't want to know. I scrambled to my feet, adrenaline surging through my veins. I had to get out. I had to escape. But the creature was faster. It lunged at me, its claws slashing through the air where my throat had been a second before. I threw myself to the side, narrowly avoiding its grasp. I could feel its hot, fetid breath on my skin as it circled me, its eyes never leaving mine. I was trapped, cornered like a rat in a cage. It lunged again, and this time its claws found their mark. I screamed as pain exploded across my chest, tearing through me like fire. I stumbled back, my hand flying to the wound. The last thing I remember before darkness claimed me was the creature's chilling laughter, echoing through the funhouse, a symphony of madness and despair. The last one found. The last one to